Hey everyone, happy Friday. We are officially on Tropics watch over the next week or so across the Gulf of Mexico and into parts of the Eastern Pacific. We've already had several named storms in the Eastern Pacific and the potential that we could have the second named storm in the Atlantic Basin as we head towards the middle of next week. Nothing imminent in our neck of the woods along the Gulf Coast, but certainly something that is going to be worth watching as we head into next week. Of course, if you're new to my YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe, and as well as my Facebook page as well. I'll try to share these links throughout hurricane season so you can subscribe to my channel. As always, we're going to talk about what's going on right now first, and then we're going to talk about what could be brewing over the next week or so. The good news for this weekend, if you're watching from Louisiana and the Gulf Coast, Saturday's forecast not looking too bad. A couple of spotty showers, better opportunity for some rain. On Sunday, as kind of a stormy weather pattern starts to develop over the Gulf of Mexico over the next week or so, loosely associated with some tropical moisture that is going to be moving our way. So here's the current setup, and it's interesting. We've already had a couple of named storms in the Eastern Pacific, the possibility that we could have another one, pretty easy to depict, where we've got an area of broad rotation in the central part of the Eastern Pacific. You can see it here, kind of spiraling its way out to sea. This has a medium chance of tropical development here in the short term, but a little bit closer to our area. Of course, we're watching a little bit more closely is this area of disturbed weather that is south of Mexico, kind of closer to the Mexico, kind of Belize, Honduras area here, south of Chapultepec, and over towards Oaxaca, towards the south of there. That's where we've got a better kind of more robust complex of thunderstorms that does have some spin with it. Now, we call this the Central American gyre this time of year, where you get several areas of rotation that kind of rotate around Central America. You can see some disorganized showers and storms near Nicaragua, another cluster of storms earlier today near parts of the Yucatan and towards Belize. So you get these areas of low pressure that kind of rotate their way around this broad gyre, a broad area of counterclockwise spin. And this time of year, what we always start to watch for is these blobs of kind of disorganized showers and storms that can sneak their way into the Bay of Campeche. Now, what's interesting about this is a lot of times if you see a storm develop south of Mexico, it's very rare that this ever crosses the Mexico continent and over in towards the Bay of Campeche, but it is possible that some of that energy, that leftover thunderstorm action associated with these tropical disturbances can survive and kind of form a new tropical system when it finds itself in the Bay of Campeche. And that's kind of what we're going to be watching for over the next 3 to 5 days. Here's a look at Invest 93E in the Eastern Pacific, and you can see some of the latest guidance with this. The forecast models, generally speaking, taking this from the south-southwest towards the northeast into the southern Bay of Campeche. Now, what is left when it gets across here? That's the big question. Truthfully, it may not be very much besides a broad area of low pressure that starts to kind of coalesce in this region of the southern Gulf as we go towards the early part of next week. First big question mark, how quickly do we see a low pressure area develop in the Bay of Campeche? We're just going to have to kind of wait and see about that, but I'll show you some forecast model guidance here in just a moment to talk a little bit more about it. The Eastern Pacific, notice we've got a 50% chance of this area of disturbed weather becoming the next named storm south of Mexico. And over towards the far middle part of the Eastern Pacific, we've got another area of disturbed weather with a 40% chance for tropical development. Now, here's the interesting part. The latest outlook from the National Hurricane Center just came out as of 2 o'clock, so I'll refresh this. We just got this in a few moments ago. This is now the latest outlook from the National Hurricane Center for the next 3 to 5 days. So again, within the next 48 hours, not much is expected to happen in our part of the Atlantic Basin. However, as we go into the early part of next week, as conditions become a little bit more favorable, we do now have a 20% chance for tropical development in the western and south part of the Gulf of Mexico and the Bay of Campeche. So there it is, low end 20% chance of development. Now, truthfully, looking at the forecast model guidance, climatology as well, this is an area that is no stranger to tropical development in the middle and latter part of June. And I think that we're going to start to see these percentages with this area of disturbed weather start to increase over the next couple of days, as guidance is pretty strongly inputting the potential that we see some tropical development here in the southern part of the Gulf early to middle part of next week. Lots of you that are watching are probably thinking, well, what do we expect it to do from there? Do we expect it to strengthen? How strong will it be? Those are some things that is just a little bit too far out. I usually call it la-la land. When you get 5 to 7 days out with tropical model forecasting, the forecast models can truthfully just be kind of some guidance, but they really don't have much truth to them lots of times. They can show you the overall setup, but with regards to exact scenarios, they're just a little bit sketchy 5 to 7 days out when talking about any credence or truth in where and how strong these systems may get. But let's talk about the what-ifs with a scenario like this. Where would a disturbance in the southern Gulf likely go if it did develop in the middle part of next week? First things first, water temperatures in the southern Gulf. Looking at many spots, 28 to 29 degrees Celsius. That's above 80 degrees Fahrenheit. Well warm enough to support tropical storm or even hurricane development. Now, I don't expect this to be a very strong system. It looks to be somewhat weak, lopsided, as most June storms typically are. But one of the ingredients that you need, warm water temperatures, we've got it. Temperatures in the Gulf are running above average, and I wanted to show you this. This is the sea surface temperature anomaly map, and many spots in the southern Gulf running about 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit above normal for this time of year. So water temperatures are warm enough, definitely conducive for tropical development. All right, now let's talk about the big question marks that I think all of you want to know is where would somewhat of a weak, lopsided, broad area of low pressure go if it did develop in the southern Gulf into the early to middle part of next week? I think there's a couple of scenarios here. Scenario number one is this really fails to develop, and with a big ridge of high pressure that I'm going to show you in a second off towards parts of Texas and into the Four Corners region, clockwise flow around high pressure may shunt this low pressure system straight into Mexico. That's option number one. Never really gets going, doesn't really do that much. That would be scenario number one. Is it kind of just petering out, going towards south central Mexico, big rainmaker, heavy rainfall threat for them, but no threat to the northern Gulf Coast. Option number two is we've got somewhat of a dip in the jet stream that's kind of going to be left over parts of the eastern United States. So you're going to get kind of a gateway that's possible that could help lift this area of disturbed weather towards the north or possibly north-northwest if this trough is a little bit weaker and this high is a little bit stronger, could go more towards the northwest. Or if that trough is a little bit stronger, you could see a disturbance head more towards the north-northeast. Any way you paint it, folks along the Gulf Coast should have kind of a wary eye on the tropics next week. It's nothing to be concerned with by any means. We've still got so many days to track this, but sometimes these early season tropical systems, they're more often than not heavy rainfall makers. They can bring some coastal flooding and storm surge. And again, it's worth watching. Here's a look at the latest GFS forecast model. I downloaded this here. This is from Tropical Tidbits, of course, a great site for amateur meteorologists and experienced meteorologists alike. And what I want to show you is kind of a general idea of what the GFS shows. By Sunday, the GFS shows a broad area of low pressure trying to coalesce in the southern Gulf. You can kind of see that right about here. As we go forward in time, by Sunday, Monday, not much is happening, right? Well, here's why. We've got a big ridge. You see it here, that clockwise flow right about here over parts of Texas and into Oklahoma. That ridge is keeping this area of disturbed weather just kind of festering in the southern Gulf. At the same time, we've got this trough. You can see it here, draped across the eastern part of the United States with another big ridge, the Bermuda Ridge, out towards the east. So you can kind of see there's a lot of factors at play with regards to where this will try to go. By Wednesday and into Thursday, the GFS starts to depict kind of this big gyre-like low with two little pieces of energy, one on the eastern side, one on the southern side, and it never really coalesces all that much, but it begins to feel the influence of that trough and gets pulled to the north, like so. And you can follow that by these brighter shades of red, and this takes this kind of big, gyre, lopsided, elliptical low, not organized. We're talking a depression or tropical storm towards the northern part of the Gulf Coast. Could bring some rainfall late next week, Thursday through maybe Saturday of next week. That's the GFS. The European model agrees with the GFS that tropical development is possible, and I'll show you that really briefly. The European model, again, shows somewhat of a broad elliptical. See how there's these little vortices of red here? That shows this is not a very organized system on both the GFS and the European. Same time frame, though. This is next Thursday, so about 6 days from now. Still in la-la land, right? This shows a broad area, maybe a tropical storm or even almost a subtropical-esque look to it because of how broad and elliptical it is, but it gets pulled up towards the northern part of the Gulf Coast. So, again, it's something that's worth watching. It's something that the models are hinting at. It's nothing that is worth any big concern or worry right now. But hey, it's that time of year. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from on a Friday afternoon when we're talking about tropics, but wanted to give you an update as we head into the weekend and into next week for just something to keep out for. This could easily help uptick rainfall chances next week across the Gulf Coast, even if nothing ever develops at all. So again, something to keep in mind right now, only that 20% chance for development, a low-end shot over the next 3 to 5 days, but I do expect those odds to go up as we get towards the early part of next week. I'll likely have another update this weekend at some point. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and if you ever have any questions or comments, you can reach me, Facebook, Meteorologist Scot Pilie, and on Instagram, ScotPilie_WX as well. Have a great weekend, and I will see you guys on the next video.